and I'm not going to like move across country with you. We just started dating.
That is a really big self-betrayal, but I was so good at self-betraying that even when it comes to marrying someone, agreeing to share a life with someone, I could not answer or speak up for myself.
You know, we don't get taught how to be in awe of our lives or of ourselves. Often enough, we know very well how to put ourselves down and how to be ashamed of ourselves and how to be like, oh my God, that was so embarrassing, blah, blah, but like to actually be in awe of who we are.
That is what abundance is. And that's what brings you that joy, that love, that fulfillment, like that sense of just loving to live. That's what abundance is.
Welcome to Mindfully Sovereign, the podcast that invites you to reclaim your feminine self-authority and unleash the abundance within. My name is Sapha, I am your host, and I'm here to help guide you past your limiting beliefs and into the heart of your unwavering and undeniable power. This podcast is all about reclaiming your feminine self-authority, learning the art of self-seduction, and awakening your inner goddess so that you can become an aligned match to your most abundant life yet. So grab a cup of tea, get cozy, and get ready to become mindfully sovereign. Right. Happy Monday and welcome back, everyone. I am so excited to be here with you today. I just feel so blessed this season and last season. I have had the most wonderful guests to share with you. And as per usual, today, the guest that I get to share with you is fabulous. I love her to pieces. You are going to love her as well. And I will allow her to introduce herself so that she can tell you all about her beautiful work and her heart and everything. So, Amy, if you want to say hello and tell us who you are, what you do, all the things.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I'm excited as well. It's always so much fun. We just finished recording one that she was on mine.
Yeah.
Like a little swap here. And I've literally been looking forward to it because I love time with Sapha. So thank you. A little bit about me. I am, well, I'd actually like to say that I'm a goddess is who I am.
Yeah.
Not the roles that I play, so it doesn't ever feel like totally truthful when I'm like, I'm a business coach and a personal development mentor, like, because I am that and I do that, but really there's so much more to that, right? And so I wear a lot of hats. I play a lot of roles. I'm a mom. I'm a stepmom. I am a business owner. I own 5 different businesses. So there's a lot of things that I do. But I essentially love to coach women how to find themselves, step into their power. I work with a lot of female entrepreneurs, helping them expand all of their strengths so that they not only make a lot of money, but they also can be examples of what's possible. And so that essentially is all the little things in a very condensed intro of me. But yeah, so.
I love that so much. And I'm here like screaming and trying not to because of the microphone and everything. But yes, we are all goddesses and you really, truly are a powerhouse. And so I'm so happy that you're here. I love in the work that you do, the heart that you have for rekindling that internal awareness of personal power. And I know that you have quite the story and the journey that you went through. So can you tell us a little bit about where that disconnect happened in your life, how you made your way back, and just how it brought you back to this point?
Yeah. Well, so first of all, I think that somehow between birth and the first 5 minutes is when the disconnect happened. Right when I was brought to this world. So I am a very, as you can tell, just probably from listening to me, I'm a very bubbly, happy, fast-paced person. And from a very young age, I was brought in a very extreme religion. And in that religion, women don't really have a lot of power. And so in my family system, like in my little individual family, I was taught and trained to not speak up, to just be obedient. And when I would speak up, I really would get in trouble. And so I was always scared to speak my voice. And anytime I would try, it would prove right that, yeah, I don't have one. And so I learned to work really, really hard. And I learned to just obey. And I would be spunky with myself. I would do little things with myself. But like in my family system, it was not really okay. Like even playing the piano. And I always say it's not okay. And I'm like, I probably should give examples, but I'm a very musical person. I love to dance. I'm very, I guess, kind of artsy that way. And just even playing the piano is too noisy. And so
Yeah.
I'd have to choose to play the piano like when no one was home, even though I loved it. And it was like something that my soul craved to do, but I would do it at home. And eventually that piano, which was really rickety and old, it was actually supposed to just be like this antique piece that was for decoration, but I wanted
Uh-huh.
to play it. And so it was not in tune or anything else. I actually don't even think I've ever talked about this, but it's coming out now here on your podcast. But
I
it got
love it.
to the unfinished basement and we didn't even have a piano bench, but I would go down there and I'd have to like sit. I found a stool, which is too tall for the piano. And I'd sit on the stool and like reach over and like play the piano. And so I loved to look at myself in that lens from an adult, thinking I was still doing those little things I loved, but I'd kind of have to do them in hiding. And dancing too, like I would try out, like I wasn't, when I was younger, I would do my own dancing. I wasn't in dance class because my parents didn't want to pay for that. So I would do it on my own. And then I would try out for dance companies without them knowing. So
Wow.
I would still like kind of sneak around and do the little things that I wanted to do. But to be verbal about it or to be like actually speak up was just impossible. I was scared to try out to sing in a choir in case I was told no. And so my whole long-winded story is what that ended up looking like later was when I'm dating this guy and I had been dating him for 3 weeks. And he proposes. He gets on his knee and he proposes. And it's a really not this amazing proposal. It's actually a really weird proposal. He didn't even have like the ring. He opens up the ring and there's not even a diamond in the ring. So it's like these empty prongs.
Oh,
And
wow.
so it's like not even this engagement story where my heart's pattering and I'm so excited to say yes or anything else. Like what's going on in my mind is this is too soon. What is he doing? I mean, he checked all the boxes when it comes to the religion and when it comes to like what maybe quote, quote, should do at the time.
Mm-hmm.
There were also a lot of red flags, but I ignored those. And when he's on his knee and it's in a snowstorm, like, I'm like, why are we out in a snowstorm? I don't understand anything that's happening at all. And he's getting on his knee and I'm freaking out. And he proposes and I leave him on his knee because I don't know what to say, because I can't say no, because I've been trained not to disrespect men. I have been trained to be agreeable. I have been trained to play this particular role of like, I'm missing the words right now, but essentially doing whatever the husband wants, whatever the man wants, whatever. It's like, you just agree. And so as he's on his knee and I'm like breaking out, my entire body is like a mess. I have goosebumps head to toe, not the good ones. My tummy is in knots. My heart is pounding. My head is screaming no. And what I do is say, what did you ask my dad? Thinking this was my out. Like my dad they don't know each other. They don't even have each other's phone numbers. Like of course he hasn't asked my dad. And he goes, well, yeah, actually he said it's okay with him if it's okay with you. Now, side note is I was on another date the night that he went to my house to ask my dad's hand in marriage. And my dad knew it. So this is how far away from marriage I thought I was, just to be clear. And so I say, oh, okay, sure. That was the proposal. And I felt so stuck. So I ended up marrying him. Of course, I learned a lot. I self-betrayed. And I like to tell the story because this is the biggest self-betrayal you can do, right? Agreeing to marry someone when you know that you shouldn't, when you know that it's for you, like that is a really big self-betrayal. But I was so good at self-betraying that even when it comes to marrying someone, agreeing to share a life with someone, I could not answer or speak up for myself. And from there, of course, the marriage was not a healthy marriage. There was a lot of unhealthy, toxic behaviors. There were a lot of reasons, in fact, check the boxes of reasons that I should leave. But then we also had 3 little kids and we married within the religion we were in. And so you do not divorce no matter what, you figure it out. And so I felt really stuck, but I felt like I was so far away from myself. And the longer I was in that marriage, I actually stayed for 11 years. And I knew immediately that it was something that was not going to last. But of course, I was like, well, I'm stuck. I made the commitment. And it was also now a commandment and commitment. And I don't want to lose relationships and all the things. And so it took me a while to finally gain the courage. And really, it was my kids that helped me gain it because I didn't want them to repeat the cycle.
Yeah.
I didn't want my boys to think that this is okay to treat women this way. And I didn't want my girl to then allow that treatment to hurt. And so it was the strength, I think, of like the mom's heart that finally helped me, like, something's got to give. And then I started asking myself questions like, well, what do you want? What does this look like for you? And all the self-discovery that took me down the road to find my own alignment. And as I did that, like, it was obviously really hard to leave. It was obviously then like broke single mom. And I always say that like rags to riches story, but it, like, I am one. I'm a rags to riches story. I lived on $2,000 a month with 3 tiny kids, and I wasn't living with anyone. I wasn't getting help from anyone. It was like, do the math, $24,000 does not go very far with rent, and you have 3 littles. So it was, a lot. It was hard. But then from there, everything started turning around for me, and my life completely unfolded in the most amazing ways because I started tuning into myself and what was possible for me, regardless of like the fact that it made no sense. I just trusted the process. And as I did, like, I created the most beautiful life. I now have a like healthy relationship. I'm remarried, and we live in the most beautiful home, multi-million-dollar neighborhood, upscale city. Everything that I used to dream about is what I live now. And I don't say this from a place of boasting. I say this from a place of, you absolutely can. Whatever's on your heart, your soul can do. It's your mind that gets in the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, that's essentially my longer version of the story of the ups and downs. But yeah.
No, it's a story of awe. We don't get taught how to be in awe of our lives or of ourselves. Often enough, we know very well how to put ourselves down and how to be ashamed of ourselves and how to be like, oh my God, that was so embarrassing, blah, blah, but like to actually be in awe of who we are. That's why these stories are so important to share. And I love that. There are so many things about this. First of all, there's so many like commonalities between us. I totally know what you're talking about because I was there. I was like also the person who got married, even though she knew that she probably shouldn't have, but same religious trauma and all of this other stuff that kind of came about. And I think it's so wonderful that when we move through these parts of our lives, that we come out at the other end and we feel a sense of almost impending doom because it's the uncertainty. It's like you said, hey, I'm making $2,000 a month and I've got 3 little kids and that's not like sufficient. And yet there is something that is always there. And I say something, but we're talking about like a broader universal, like God, goddess, like spirit taking care of us that really shows up for us when we are in these situations, and that we can see no matter what happens, we are going to be okay. And one of the key things that you said that I love about this is that journey of, well, 2 things. One, self-betrayal, because I have been there, I have done it. I know what that tastes like. I know how horrible it can feel. And I know how amazing it is at the end when you reclaim that and turn it around. So I love that. Number 2 is that there's this sense of listening to self. And I know there are 3 main A's that you work with, which are also A's that I align with very deeply. So let's talk about the 3 A's, please.
Yeah. So everything I do is around, yes, these 3 A's because they help guide you. And it's awareness, alignment, and abundance. And they're not like point A to point B where it's like, once you become totally aware, you move into alignment. And once you become totally aligned, then you are abundant. It's not that. It's that they all work simultaneously together. And I know with you, you talk a lot about be curious. Like, curiosity is your friend. We cannot change what we're not aware of. And so when you get aware of all of the little things, like, okay, so why is this life the life that I'm living right now? Like, why am I living on $2,000 a month? Like, come on, like, what am I doing that's creating this? And why am I accepting this, that this is what I'm worth? Yeah. Why am I allowing certain people into my life that continually hurt me? Why am I doing that? Like, why am I believing like the beliefs of my family system? Oh my word. My parents are pure scarcity doomsdayers. Like, even to this day, I love them. They think the world is ending tomorrow. And it has been ending tomorrow since I was a little girl. Like, Saturday nights, we would be putting together 72-hour kits and we would be stocking up on food storage, and it's always ending. And I'm like, that I believed that for a while, right? Because this is what I'd been taught. I also believed that money was really hard to make, which is funny because none of us make money. The people at the Mint make money. We
Mhm.
earn, and we earn money through our values and like the things that we give service for. Stop saying I need to make more money. Start saying I'm earning more money every day. Like, let's change that. But get really curious as to what you believe. I believed that it was hard to make money. That's what I was told. And
Mhm.
guess what? It was really hard to make money. And I could never make ends meet. And the more, like with my ex, we had no money. And then I got broke, or then I got divorced and became even more broke. I didn't think I could. I couldn't take my kids to the dollar menu at McDonald's. I'd make them split. Like, no joke. They would all split like $2 worth of food. And I would be
Mhm.
hungry. And then I would take them to Costco, and the big hot dog, I would cut it into thirds and they would each eat a piece of the hot dog. Like, that is the life that I lived. So awareness is like, okay, do I believe this can be different for me? Like, where are my gaps? Let's close
Mhm.
those gaps. And we're going to close them by then stepping into that version of me that already has it, which is part of the abundance piece. But so being totally hyper aware and understanding that once you're aware, you get to do things different. Then once you start to do things different, which you also have to, decide that you are going to be doing something different, you can move into alignment. If it doesn't feel good to you, then don't do it.
Mhm.
And it's different. Like, doing something new that's scary is different than something that obviously is not feeling aligned. That's different. When we try something new, we're going to, like, our brain is going to come up with all the reasons why we can't do it, like our conscious brain, right? Even our subconscious brain, they both are going to go to work. So if you can realize that, yeah, our brain will tell us no, and this is guaranteed. But if our hearts feel like it's a yes, then it's a yes. And I know that you do a lot of energy work too. I do too. But like, energetically, to just even understand this a little bit simpler, I like simplicity. That's how my brain works. Is if it excites you, it can excite you and scare you. If you are being lit up, and if you are feeling creative, if you are feeling like, I don't know why, I don't know, but something's telling me, lean in. And again, you can be aware and curious, and then lean in and say, okay, this feels good. I don't know why, but I'm going to lean in and I'm going to trust the process. It's letting your brain kind of shut down a little bit, like, okay, I hear you, I see you, it's okay. But also, how do I feel? It's tapping into your body's emotions and truly trusting that you have the answers. Like, when I was leaving my ex-husband, it made no sense, like, to anyone around me, why I would do this. And obviously, like, it also looked like we were picture perfect from the outside in. So they didn't really know
Mhm.
what was going on the inside. But like, and then even everything I'd been taught, don't divorce. My dad came to my house. You guys are going to probably hate him that I'm saying this story, but he came to my house one night and I was like, hey, Dad, can you come over? I'm really, really struggling. So we had been separated at this point, and I'm like, I just need someone to give me some comfort. And I wanted like a man's comfort is what I was looking for, not my friend, not my mom. And my dad came over and said, well, I actually need to give you fatherly counsel. When he came through the door, he said, I need to sit down and give you fatherly counsel. And he went on to tell me that I'm baggaged goods, that no one's going to want me, that I have 3 little kids. I know you're dropping your jaw. That I have 3 little kids that I need to attend to. And by leaving my husband, I will be breaking commandments and I'll be breaking. And he went into all of these things and then told me it was the most selfish thing I could do. Now,
Mhm.
by leaving him, all of our lives, every single one of us lives a better life because I made the decision to leave. If I would have listened to quote, quote, the fatherly counsel, which is what I was conditioned to do, by the way, I was conditioned to say yes to whatever it was that he wanted and to listen because I'm supposed to be submissive to the men. And I didn't. Like, I remember him. I mean, I was infuriated. I was crying. I was a freaking disaster when he said this, of course. And then I kicked him out. I said, you get out of my house, Dad. And he's like, well, did you still want? I was like, no, get out. Like, you're not welcome here anymore. And it was the very first time I stood in my power against someone that was of the opposite sex, like of a man.
Mhm.
First
Mhm.
time ever. And by the way, I've gotten into some trouble because I don't feel like I could ever say no to men. That can be very troublesome in different areas of your life, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, for the first time I stood there and it felt really empowering, but it was also very scary. And then going down the path of knowing, I need to do this. I need to do this for myself. I need to do this for my kids. I don't know what life looks like for, my husband at the time, what life's going to look like for him, but this is what I know I need to do. So I leaned in, I listened to my heart. And the outcome years later is that every single one of us lives a better life. Everybody lives a better life because I made the decision. If I would have stayed with him, all of us would be in a different situation. So it's like trusting that your soul does know the way, and your soul is old. It has all kinds of wisdom. It's old. So why don't we tap into that? Why don't we allow that? Why don't we just say yes to whatever our soul is saying? She won't lead you astray. She's a freaking goddess. She's not going to lead you astray. And so that's essentially the alignment piece. And then the awareness, the abundance is what happens next. Like I say what happens next. I need to say they all happen simultaneously. You're working on all of them. But what happens is when you embody abundance, more abundance flows. When you energetically are up at a higher vibration, you are attracting more into your life that you want. Same goes for the opposite, right? But when you're in abundance, it is a place of being, and it's not about necessarily the dollar bills.
Yes.
We measure it through dollar bills, that's success, but that's not it. What it is you loving everything that's going on around you. You see the abundance in your relationships. You see the abundance just even from you and I both love dogs, right? So like the love that the dog gives you. Going outside, like right now it's springtime and everything's coming to life, like seeing that life and really loving everything that's going on, the blessings that are happening every single day. That is what abundance is. And that's what brings you that joy, that love, that fulfillment, like that sense of just loving to live. That's what abundance is. We think we sometimes connect it to money. A lot of times we do, because money brings you freedom. Understand that abundance is freedom, that it's your decision to create the life that you want, and then you're creating it on purpose. It feels better. And when it feels better, you do attract more. A lot of the other things that have happened in my life, we can go into them if you want, but like I've manifested the craziest things. But it's, again, the abundance piece is the state of being. It's the place of trust. Like, okay, for whatever reason this is coming up for me, if it's aligned with me, then this will happen for me. And it does. And it's amazing. And I'm offering that to you guys too, that this, whatever's on your heart, like seek after it, go after it, all the things, because you can. It's kind of like a game, actually.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there you go. That's like, again, just spewed all that out on you. What do you have? Any questions or anything else you want to say?
I love it. No. I love it. And I'm like furiously shaking my head over here because yes to everything. It's so funny that you were bringing up the abundance piece, because that was the first episode that I recorded for season 3 of the podcast, was about abundance and how abundance does not always lead to like it doesn't mean like financial wealth, right? But an abundant being is a wealthy being. So it doesn't always mean like, oh, I get wealth and then I'm abundant. It's like I'm abundant and thereby wealth is a byproduct. And that wealth could be so many different things. But I love that we're talking about that. Also, too, do you know what? There's just so much. But one of the things that people struggle with a lot in terms of understanding alignment, I think, is that the word isn't very like commonly used. And when it is, it's just sometimes misused. So let's have a little bit of a conversation around alignment, because for me, the way that I've experienced this very keenly in my life, and it's so funny that it often comes with the breaking point of something. It also came for me like as I was going through my own divorce and all of these things, so many similarities. But it's that for me is the things that are true to who you are and the things that are true and connected to your soul that really make the most amount of sense. And being someone musical, I think you'll understand when I say this, but it's the same as like you ding on like one of those little like pitchfork things, and then the resonance that matches that pitchfork is going to follow. And so the alignment piece, I think, is like huge. What was, do you think, the first point of true alignment that you really were able to sink your teeth into as you were moving through your transition and your transformation and your self-reclamation? Because that's what it was.
Yeah, I love this question. So the very first thing was, I'm like, what was the very first thing? let me say what's on my mind and then it will tie in. So I can't think of the very first thing other than when I knew that it was time to leave him. And alignment has happened in a lot of different areas of my life, different ways in my life. So I'll give a few examples and analogy that I like to attach to it. So when I was leaving him, I leaned into feeling good, even though I had no idea. I had no idea how I was going to make ends meet. I had no idea how the family was going to work. Like I had no idea how many relationships I was going to lose, which by the way was a lot. Like there was a lot of who knows, right? But I was at complete peace inside of me. There were no, like, by the time I left, there was no energy that it was flat. It was just like, there was a peace inside of me and not everything else was just flat. It was like, I am exhausted. I am done. There is nothing left here for me. And because I got to that place, there were also no regrets. There's not 1 minute of my life that I've looked back and said, oh, I wish I would have given this another shot. Again, because everyone wants to keep the family together, right? Keep the kids together. So I never questioned that. But as I went through that, I had to go through a lot of self-discovery of becoming more aligned with myself. And what this looked like was, as I was on my way out, I started asking myself really, really simple questions, which were hard to answer because when you're so lost to the point of marrying someone, right? Like so lost of like what you actually are worth and capable of, you don't really know. Like for me, I didn't even make myself dinner that I liked.
Yeah, I get that.
I didn't even make food that I liked. I would make food that he liked. And he had a list that he would always want me to check off. This is like so awful when I say this. I'm like, other people are, what? You would do this? But he had a list. And he's like, I will love you. If you do all these things on the list, then I'll love you again. He would say this in our marriage. Wow. And I would try so hard to do the list. And I'm like, what? Guess what? Now me today, I'd be like, okay, there's the door. If you don't love me, there's nothing here. Like, I'm not going to try and like earn your love. It's so much. But at the time I was so lost that I would try and earn his love, and then, so I'd ask myself, well, what do you want for dinner? Simple thing, which seemed really difficult at the time was, I had all these little kids and I would never do anything for myself. So one day I got a babysitter and went on a bike ride. What? Like, I can do this? Like, those were things that I didn't even think I could do because I was so ingrained of living this role of being this perfect wife, making sure everything's clean, taking care of the kids. There was nothing for me. I was so far away from myself. And so alignment was tuning in like, wait, you did like to do that when you were younger. Do you still? Again, piano playing, like, okay, so maybe I should play the piano a little bit more. Maybe I should. So the things that would kind of light me on fire that felt good. I'm really into fitness. So a lot of that started, like I started doing more of that outside of, at the time I was a fitness instructor, but again, you're showing up for people, you are working, so I would do things outside of any kind of role I was playing for me, essentially dating myself again and realizing that I was pretty cool. Like I was like, oh, Amy, you're actually pretty cool. And then it evolved. And so it's like, again, I always say it's excitement. Like, what excites you? What turns you on? What is it that's like really a burning desire that you maybe haven't sought out yet? That is your inner guidance saying, hey, maybe you should do this. And I like to think of alignment as like you're driving a car, right? It's like a really easy analogy. When your car's out of alignment, if you just let the wheel take you, say it's going to pull you to the right or it's going to pull you to the left. If you take you, something's going to happen. You're going to end up wrecking a car. You're going to hit a house. Something's going to happen if you just let the car take you. That's because it's out of alignment, right? And it's really annoying. So say it's annoying, but you don't want to go get it fixed. So you're driving and you keep having to pull to one side and it's really difficult. And so you're pulling and it's every single time you drive, you're annoyed.
Yep.
The car's still out of alignment. So you're working really hard against it. When you're in alignment, things flow, things feel easier. So even in business, it's like you wake up excited for what kind of work you're going to do today. And because you show up fully in your work and you're totally all in, like the money will come. Maybe it's not today. Maybe it's next month. Maybe it's whenever, like your work will be accounted for. You will be paid for it. And so alignment is all about, okay, I am trusting the process. This is where I'm supposed to be right now. This is what's coming up for me right now. And it feels like I'm in flow. It feels like you're more creative. For instance, there's this one lady I was working with recently. She's brilliant, but she had gone through all of these programs of trying to do everything that the program told her to do. And she was like an executive of this big company before she decided to come into entrepreneurship. So she's motivated, she's ambitious, she has ideas, she has all this stuff, like all this history of success, but now entrepreneurship looks different. So she's following all these programs. When I met with her, she was so far out of alignment with who she really is and what her creative self loves to do. And I remember our very first real session with her. I just sat down with her. I was like, okay, so I reviewed all of your stuff. And what I'm seeing is that you're doing this. Why? And I didn't tell her what else I had seen. I just said, why are you doing it this way? And she's like, well, that's what I've been told to do. And I was like, okay, so do you like doing it that way? She's like, no, I hate it. And she just goes off on like how she feels so restricted and so confined. I'm like, hey, I also reviewed, this part of her business. I was like, and what I see is that you're really creative at all these other things. She's like, well, that's what I want to do. I'm like, hey, but why are you not doing that? And so I helped her just tune in to what her genius was. And as soon as that happened for her, her creative flow, like she felt like she was blocked. Her creative flow was so out of control. She created 3 incredible courses and like landed super high profile, high ticket clients in less than a month. Everything happened that fast. And that's because she became in alignment with what she's meant to be doing. And so alignment is that. It's like trusting that it will unfold, trusting that the process will, like, even in the depths of despair, I didn't know how I was going to make ends meet. Like, I was so watched over during that time and it all worked out. And so it's like just trusting the process, trusting yourself. Your soul knows the way. And if you're lit up, that's a really good indicator.
Yeah, no, I love that so much. And one of the key distinctions for me is like, it's about what lights you up. It's not necessarily, I always laugh when people say, well, okay. So when it comes to like romantic relationships, I always tell people to be mindful of when they feel butterflies. Cause I'm like, usually butterflies in your stomach could be a warning sign because it's your nervous system telling you this is a fight or flight response, but we've interpreted it as this romantic thing. So when it comes to like doing things that we love and that we're passionate about and that light us up, and that feel very purposeful for us, it's a very similar thing because we believe that in order to be doing something that's purposeful, it has to be immediately successful and it just gets to be like super easy and we just snap our fingers and it's going to get done. Or B, we believe that it's this something that we're just like organically going to like know. Like I'm just going to wake up one morning, open the book, and I'm going to know that this is the thing. And it's like, okay, yes, but like, is it giving you life? Is it filling your cup? Is it allowing you to express all of the fullness of who you are? And so I just love that. It's so interesting how it's everything that we live and everything that we go through feeds into everything else. And so it's not as if I just wake up one morning and I learn how to do yoga and that's all I did. The magic of the practice and the magic of living this existence, understanding that there's more depth to everything, is that yes, you are doing that, and doing that is going to then allow you to do something else. And little by little, those things are going to align and they're going to pave the way and they're going to let you see the bigger picture. And what that allows you to do is trust. And I don't know if you've experienced this, but for me, one of the biggest parts about trust and intuition and alignment and like following your gut and all of these things, right? Which that is part of intuition, but you know what I mean, is that there is this leaning in, like you said, and leaning in, knowing that you aren't necessarily promised the outcome, just like leaning in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you're leaning in and you're trusting the process, there's no date on what the outcome will be. However, the outcome will happen. Like the craziest things, when you truly trust that when you're on the path and when you're in that alignment and you're practicing the abundance of being in the space of abundance does come.
Mm-hmm.
It does come. It's like every single time we doubt, I say this, but don't get hung up on this. I don't want you to be like, oh no, I do this all the time, I'm never going to be abundant. But every time we start to doubt, we're taking ourselves down energetically. And we're feeding that energy of doubt, which is going to bring more doubt. It's like, so if you're lit up, trust the process. You don't ever have to know like the outcome, how it's going to happen. And even with manifesting different things, like the house I'm living in today, when I saw this, not this physical house, because I ended up building this house, but when I saw this house, I was on this drive. And my whole point here is that things don't make sense initially. Okay. So hang with me just for a second. I like to tell stories, but I was on this drive with my boyfriend, who I ended up marrying now. That's my current husband. And we had gone from neighborhood to neighborhood, to neighborhood to neighborhood. At this point, we'd been dating for 2 weeks. I'd learned my lesson. I was dating him much longer than 3 before the proposal, but we've been dating for 2 weeks. So this is a very new relationship is my point. And I see this house and he sees this house and it is like perfect. Like, I'm just like, I love this house. I don't know what it is about this house. I love it. And so we get out of the car. Remember, we've known each other 2 weeks, like not even like knew each other before. Like we met and started dating and now we're 2 weeks in and now we're like taking pictures of this house and we love it so much. We have to know what's in the backyard and what the back of the house looks like. We get up on this fence. It was like this cement type fence. We get up and we're like walking on the fence. So technically trespassing, and we're taking pictures of every angle of this house. And I was just like, that is like just beautiful. I don't know what it is about it. I just love that house. Okay. Now at the time I was broke single mom and I was just dating him. And to be clear, he also was broke. It's not like he saved my life and now we lived this luxury life, just to be clear. So now fast forward to the proposal. In the book, he does this proposal book where he puts all these pictures of us dating and all these things over like the course of our courtship. Which was really cute, right? That's how he proposed. In the
Adorable.
Right. And at the end of the book, as I'm reading this book, it's like a total story about us and all the pictures and everything. At the end of the book, he has our kids holding up signs. There's 7 kids, by the way. And it says, "Will you marry me?" And then he gets on his knee. He proposes. Actually, a very cute story. But point is, that house was in our pic. That was part of our dating, right? That was 2 weeks in. So, and I just saw the house. I was like, oh yeah, that house. I never thought about it again. Okay. Fast forward another year, we're looking for places to live. And financially, I want to get my kids in a stable place, but financially to build anything like that makes 0 sense. No sense at all. But I'm driving. I come across that house again. We're going neighborhood. We didn't even remember what city was in. And somehow we're back at that house. And I was like, I'm obsessed with this house. This is that house again. I knock on the door and I ask him like, hey, who's your builder? Financially, it does not make sense. And the guy is like, oh, this is a builder. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, okay. So I just call him. Right. And next thing you know, we are building the house. Financially, again, it doesn't make any sense at all. But I just keep following the footsteps of the excitement is the whole point. Okay.
Yeah.
2 years into marriage, we're living in this house. The money worked out. We're still here. It's still beautiful. I still love it. It's been the most perfect neighborhood. And the point is like living in that abundance and also taking the steps, even though you don't even know how this is going to come to be. We figured it out. And now financially, this house is not a problem. But at the time, it was like, how's this going to work? My husband, he was coming off of bankruptcy, for crying out loud. How's he going to qualify for this house? But it all works out. It's like, just trust that following the little breadcrumbs or whatever, it will lead you if it's meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
If it's meant to be. I never thought I would have actually lived in a house that looked like that.
Yeah. And you never know what that chapter is going to be. I just love stories like this. So we talk about, I mean, that's like a synchronicity, right? Like that's something that you just like, it was meant for you. It was there from the beginning and it just had its way of building. So similarly, I don't know why I'm going on a diatribe, but when we, so just to give you a little bit of background. So I live in Tennessee now. My family, I have 3 brothers. The youngest of them 3 has been living in Tennessee for like decades. Like they've just been here for a very long time. And to me, there was something about this place that always felt like home. And it was like something that I just believed this place like was calling me and calling me and calling me. But the way that my life was evolving and the way that things were going, because of who I had married at the time, my ex-husband was like that toxic relationship and everything. And because of where everything was, it didn't look like I was ever going to get here. It looked like it was the most impossible impossibility like ever possible. And somewhat similar to what you said, my now husband and I had only been like hanging out, or like I don't even think we were officially dating. We may have only been like friends with bennies at this point. I don't remember. But we were just like hanging out one day, and we were at a coffee shop, and I said, well, just like I am planning on moving to Nashville. Like because I wanted to be upfront with him, and I didn't want him to be like surprised if I just like up and left. And honestly, I loved being like you, loved being with me. I thought I was a really cool person to be with. So I just wanted to be with me in Nashville. I was like, I want to be in Tennessee. So I tell him this, and he's like, oh, I can see myself living there. But I just kind of like blew past it, because I was like, I'm not going to like make another mistake, and I'm not going to like move across country with you. We just started dating. Right. So I'm not going to like do that. And little by little things started to open. And at first, and I say this because I think it's important for people to understand something. At first, there was a lot of resistance. Mm-hmm. At first, it seemed like it just wasn't going to happen. No jobs were opening. Their houses were selling too quickly. There was like, it was a lot of like pushback and a lot of like uncertainty and like this. And I remember having a conversation about this with someone who owned a crystal shop, and he's like a pretty good friend of mine and everything. And I told him, and he was like, well, what resistance means? And he was like, going to go where like that means you're not supposed to go there. And I'm like, no, I know that resistance means you pay attention. You pay attention, you leaning in. There's a reason why we use this lingo in workouts and like in yoga and stuff. Like, you're leaning into the pain just a little bit to see what it is. Like, is it that your muscle is strengthening, or are you going to physically hurt yourself? Are you leaning in with that trust? Are you understanding that maybe things aren't going to look perfect? Maybe they're not going to even end up the way that you wanted them to, and there is no guarantee that they will. But are you leaning in, and are you listening? Are you watching? Are you feeling? Because sometimes that resistance, all it is you got that one more pound on the freaking barbell. That's all it is. You just have to push a little bit harder. Sometimes that's all it is. Or it's a contraction. You know what I mean? Like, as women, we understand the contractual state. But I love that so much. And I say this just so people take heart and know, when you're in alignment, even if there's resistance, the path will open. It's about trust, and it's about awareness, and it's about moving, and it's about keeping that flow going. And like you said, the thing about like when we feed into where our mind goes, attention, energy flows. Like I always say when we're practicing yoga too, like I'm like, when I teach crow pose, I'm like, if you look at the floor, you're going to fall. Like, stop looking at the floor and thinking you don't want to fall, because that's the first thing you're going to do is you're going to fall. So in life, if we look at despair and think I don't want to despair, that's exactly what we're going to keep thinking about. And so we want to move beyond that. I love so much that you shared that story. Thank you.
And you're right. Like the resistance, we had all of the resistance. He was coming off of bankruptcy. We had no idea how we were going to actually afford this house. The money at the time didn't make sense. Our contractor, after we contracted with him, he actually walked off the job, and we didn't know where he went, which means I became the contractor. By the way, I had no idea what I was doing, but I just did it anyway. And we kept going, and we ended up having to do a lot of the work ourselves for this house to get completed. And then at the like, so many things went wrong along the way. In fact, our framers and the architects didn't do our upstairs right, meaning that like when you actually go to frame it, the stairs were going into a closet, which doesn't work, right? So on the fly, yeah. My mom and all the experience that we have, which was none, was we redesigned the whole upstairs so that it will work for the framers. We have no idea what we're doing. And somehow we like are chalking lines. We're doing whatever we got to do to make it work. Point is we kept going down that path, trusting that it would work out. And even at the very end, when we came down to financing, like there was all this money we didn't have. I was like, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? We've come this far. Are we not going to be able to close the house? Well, because we had done so much work on it, and because I became the general, that price now came way down. Wow. And we did essentially, in the very end, have to borrow some money temporarily. It was temporary. And so even that, people maybe would have been like, oh, we're not going to do that. And there was resistance. Mm-hmm. Throughout the whole thing, there was resistance. But at the end, everything worked out. And like within a few months, we paid that money back. And then because of what happened even in the market, when we refinanced, or when we had to like refinance whatever, everything was lower. Everything. Mm-hmm. And it's like, so we can take you through the steps of how this happened. But as you lean in, it's not going to be that it's like roses the whole way there. There will be resistance, but it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to make sense. Like nothing that was amazing that came to pass made sense. Like Apple computer didn't make sense. Moving stuff with like moving your phone around with your finger didn't ever make sense. Like flying a plane didn't make sense, but these people had this dream and they're like, we're going to see this through. I think we can figure this out. And they do. And so it's like, no one's more capable than anyone else. We all have the same capabilities. We just have to believe that we can and that it will figure itself out. And it does. Because again, we're goddesses and our being is pretty smart.
Mm-hmm. And there's no limit, like the impossible becomes possible. We just have to be open to watching, to flowing, to leaning in, to observing, to trusting, and to remembering that, yeah, like there is no guarantee. And that scares us because I think a lot of times that's what it is. I'm not going to go after the dream unless I get the guarantee. There is no guarantee. You might fall and you might fail, and there might be things that don't go the way that you want them to, and it's still okay. I promise you. I know that's one of the hardest lessons to learn, and it's like one of the heaviest, but it is so incredibly true. And what's great about this too is that really it allows us to see where we are the ones that are at the helm. We're the ones that choose. You said something earlier that's very true, and I agree with this. It's like you're the one that's choosing who am I allowing into my life, and to what degree, and in what way, and everything. What dreams am I building into? What am I feeding? And where is my attention going to go? And am I going to keep opening that door, or am I going to completely deter myself by fearing and believing that resistance means a no? Or like I'm really just watching things little by little. And like I said, sometimes it's the crazy things. I'm in Nashville now, but like at first it was going to look impossible. Your house looked impossible at first, and it's like now it's there. And it's the same thing in every area of our lives. And I think we see this a lot, very reflected within entrepreneurship, but we see it a lot in our interpersonal relationships. I think a lot of times we forget that that's one of the first places where that attention goes. And it's like you want to build this beautiful communication with your children, with your spouse, with your family members, with everything. You want to build this beautiful intimacy, have this life that I always say that you want to have a life that feels like a romance for the ages. You want to build all of that. That takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of sitting with it, and it takes a lot of understanding that you're following that flow, you're following that alignment, you're listening, you're attuning. That's the other, you're like paying attention. All of these things are so important. And that's where the true abundance is, because you could be abundant and literally have only 2 cents to your name. And that's still abundance because you're living, you're choosing to make that life abundant. And I think that's super powerful. Oh my gosh, Amy, I want to keep you here for hours and hours and hours, but I'm having to wrap things up, unfortunately. I'm probably going to ask you to come back to the podcast sometime soon, if that's okay.
Yeah, we can talk. I know we can both talk forever, for sure.
Which is great.
Great. Yeah.
Which is great. So what I want to do is I want to do 2 things. One is I'm going to have you give your details where everybody can find you, where they can connect with you, all of the wonderful things. But also before that, I always ask my guests to tell me what their definition of, or what their perception is, or what it means to them to live a mindfully sovereign life.
I would say, yeah, it's getting curious, which I know we've already talked about, but I also like to say it's going through that cave that you fear. The cave you fear holds the treasure you seek. And so you go through that. I know you also talk about being warriors. It's like we get to be trailblazers, but we have to choose it. And so even though things might feel scary or feel different, or like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, but you just trust the process. The cave is scary. The cave is dark. The cave, you're not really sure like what's on the inside, other than you think that there's that treasure. You'll never know until you go through it. And on the other side, you are the treasure. You are such a like more potent, amazing version of yourself. And you do like love yourself so much deeper when you face that and you just go through it. So the cave you fear holds the treasure you seek.
Oh, I love that so much. And that's the key, by the way. If you've ever felt like you've self-betrayed, that's the key. Like you want to bring yourself through that entire process. Thank you. So, okay, where can they find you? Where can they connect with you?
Thank you. So just my Instagram's probably the best. It's just Coach Amy Sanders. And then my website is also amysanders.co. And if you go to my website, there is like a free PDF that you guys can grab your hands on that's all about essentially aligning with money. I know we talked about money a little bit, but I do a lot around money mindset as well. And that's a freebie that just literally has changed so many people's lives. So I would say go do that. Get that.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay, Amy, thank you so much. I love this time that we spent together. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It's been an honor.
All right, let me pause the recording.